Welcome to Tigs Bits. This week, we are visiting with one of my all-time favorite entertainers. Can't believe this is happening. This man has done it all, from winning American Idol, being a Broadway star in Greece, the first Idol winner to have a Vegas residency, a restaurateur, and the leader of the Soul Patrol, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome platinum-selling, Grammy-winning actor, singer, songwriter, and awesome dude, Mr. Taylor Hicks. Play us in, Taylor. Oh, man. Yes, sir. Soul Patrol, baby. Soul Patrol. Now, that is an intro if I have ever had one on this show. Taylor, thank you so much for coming on, man. It is an absolute honor to have you on here, man. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. You know, when you're on social media and you're traveling and stuff, and obviously I've known Jr. for a long time, and then to hear that y'all came to the you came to the show, that means something to me, and however I can keep the word spread and keep the love flowing, then that's what I'm gonna do. So that's kind of the way that's kind of the way that I operate. That's my mo, and shit, I like the show too. So I mean, it's we're killing three birds with one stone here.
For sure.
Easy business.
Man. It really is, man. It really is. Well, how did you and JR cross paths? How did that all? I mean, I'm sure that goes back several years, but how did that all? How did y'all's relationship begin? I haven't ever asked.
Well, all in Alabama, as far as musicians go, it's funny. It's all roads lead to Wayne Mills. And
Yeah.
Wayne's kind of like he was kind of like the Alabama's version of Kevin Bacon. I mean, you knew him. You either knew a family member of him, or you knew of him, or you knew somebody that knew of him, or somebody that was playing with him, or somebody that was getting drunk with him. So that's kind of, and Alabama's small anyway. So it's funny. That's how we met, obviously through Wayne and a lot of the travels and music and stuff. So I mean, I hadn't seen Jr. in a while when I ran into him at the Bama, and it's just like we reconnected, and it was like the same time that we all got drunk together when we were kids. So those kinds of relationships, when you go through the entertainment business, and you see people that you hadn't seen in a long time, that you were friends with back when, and it's fun. We had a lot of fun when that happened back then, but then when you reconnect, then it gets a whole lot funner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like it's almost now because we're not in our 20s anymore. The stories sound more fun than actually going through what we're talking about doing nowadays.
Yeah,
We're like, it's good to reminisce, but I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, we can go to bed and talk about it. Talk about it.
That's right.
We'll talk about it tomorrow over brunch.
Right.
And feel good. It's amazing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Not
I don't miss some of that. I definitely don't miss some of those days. But
No.
Not at
those
all.
stories live forever, man.
Oh,
And and that's the truth though, because it's still now anywhere I go, and I'm sure you're the same way, Taylor. Anywhere I go and I say from Alabama, or I ask somebody where they're from, Wayne comes up in 80% of the conversations I have with people all over the country. Like, not even in our region anymore. It's incredible, and it's a testament. Like you said, he always kept everybody together. It was he was never one to. He always wanted to introduce you to everybody. Hey, come play a show with me, borrow this, hell, come with me. Whatever. He was just down for whatever. Hey, I've got this thing. I got a new club, so-and-so. I'm going to text everybody I know the number. Y'all book you a gig there, instead of trying to hide it or squirrel it away for himself like some people would, He was just great like that.
He taught me, look, I'll go into some of these places all over the country and perform, and there'll be opening acts that open up for me, and I always ask the opening act to sit in with me, every one of them that I can. And Wayne Mills taught me how to do that. When I
Yep.
was 18 years old and learn playing harmonica a little bit and just kind of getting going. We ended up being in the same musical circles and traveling and playing all these same places. And he always used to let me up and play. Now, I mean, I might not have been in the right state of mind to sit in with Wayne Mills sometimes, but that's the great thing about harmonicas. You a little bit more room for error. But the
Hey man,
he taught me how to to embrace people that you play with, and I've been fortunate enough to allow people on my stage that are just getting going, and that reciprocal idea was taught to me by Wayne Mills.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
I say from and to go along with that too, and I noticed even at your show when I saw you at the Floribama, the one thing that's kept you always in the right place at the right time is because Wayne did the same thing. You put the music first. It's not about the ego or not about the money necessarily or things like that. It's always about what can we do to have the best show and have the best music, whether it's at the early at daytime, at the show, after party, wherever, invite, whatever's going to make it the best. Let's do that. And that's why it's always gotten better and better. I say that about all of my friends that I've been watching their albums come out and watching them perform live for the last 20 something years now, is that everybody's gotten better. It's just gotten better. It's like everything has just gotten a little better every time. Everybody's voices change because you get older, and your music tastes and your influences have changed, but it always gets better and better. And that's because most of the people that we've always ran with, like I was talking with the guys before you got on air, I ran into Adam Hood this weekend at the Muscadine Bloodline Turnpike Troubadour show. But everybody, and him included, everybody just gets better and better. You know what I mean? And it's because everybody put the music first, and that's like you said, Wayne always wanted that because he's like, man, these fans would love to hear harmonica on top of my country song or Charlie Daniels song I'm going to play anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was a blessing. That guy was a blessing, and I was just fortunate enough to be able to have him back. Kind of when I hit, he came and did some dates with me, and I was able to spend some really good quality time before his unfortunate passing. So
Yeah, yeah. Hey, talking about meeting Wayne early on, and you were you came up in the Birmingham scene. We met obviously at the Floribama around 2004, 5, somewhere probably 4ish, 3, late 3, early 4, somewhere in there. And I knew some of the bands. I grew up in Elmore County, like outside of Montgomery, Lake Martin area. So there was a scene there, not so much, but there was some local talent. But coming up in Birmingham, who were the other acts that when you were like teenager that were hot around town that you were looking out, you were jamming their stuff coming up?
well, I think Wet Willie was always kind of an adopted band from Birmingham. Even though they grew up in Mobile, they were playing a lot. Uh, uh, Tell You Ride, Rick Carter, and all of those
Yes.
Oh, Rick
guys
Carter.
rolling in the
Yep.
hay. They were a real big group. Um, I don't think Rick would like me saying this, but I booked Rolling in the Hay for my prom. Um, and uh, and also Brother Kane,
Yep.
Yeah.
Damon Johnson.
with Damon Johnson and the all the harmonica playing by Topper Price. Those were kind of some of the bands that were breaking, that were in the regional the regional circuit. And then obviously Brother Kane with Got No Shame went into national stuff. But I mean, yeah, that those are kind of the bands that were kind of that were about 10 or 15 years older than me, that we would always go
Right.
see.
And then when you kicked it off, what was the kickoff when you first started doing music to out in public and stuff? I know you always sang and played and stuff, and everybody, you had a musical family, but on in like after high school, what was the first gig? Really trying to go gig. You're like, I'm gonna put a band together and I'm gonna go play this gig and try to make $100 or whatever it
Well,
was.
it's funny. I played basketball at Hoover High School, and then when I was about 16, I bought my first harmonica at the Bessemer Flea Market, and I don't really recommend anybody buying anything that you blow and suck on at flea markets, to be honest with you.
That is great
You
advice.
know, I got
It was a good idea at the time.
yeah, hey, it looked all shiny until
Yeah.
but luckily I didn't catch anything. I'm still here, but I started playing. And right around 16, I had this family that would have basement parties, and they would let the kids come over and all the seniors drink. But then they would have they had an RV and they had a band. That they on the weekends they would go haul ass and go set up shop in some of the RV posts and play music. Well, now I started playing harmonica a little bit, and this family would kind of just, was listening to me, and I started singing some, the blues, and I was already kind of through an apprenticeship, vocally from Ray Charles and all of that. So I was singing, and then I did some harmonic and stuff, and then I sat in with their band one night when I was about 17, and I mean we had some wild ass high school parties because the kids, would come over and that was back then,
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
the
Right.
parents would have the big house, and we had, we'd come over and then all the parents would drink, and then we had some great musicians at those parties that would play almonds and stuff, and then I kind of learned how to do that. Well, it kind of graduated into, let's take Taylor after the high school basketball game and put a hat on him and put him at Corey's Sports Bar, biker bar, and let him play with the blues band. So I would go from high school basketball games and sneak out, and they would put a brim hat on me, and then I would sit in the corner at this biker bar on 31 in Birmingham, Corey's. And I would play blues until 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd sneak back into my parents' house at night.
Wow.
So
That's
that's
great,
kind of
man.
that's kind of how I started, and then I decided not to do the basketball thing. I was recruited by some schools to play two guard, but I just wasn't dribbling the basketball anymore. I figured I'd turn some ladies' heads with this harmonica, and
Yeah.
I would be riding the pine. So, that went from Auburn, and then Auburn I went into and then started a little band in Auburn, and then it kind of grew, and then it ended up getting an agent. So it just kind of was a gradual, but I knew that that this is what I wanted to do. I
Right.
wanted to be an entertainer, and luckily I was able to. I tell people in interviews, and I'll say this until I'm blue in the face, but people in Alabama will let you know if you can throw a football, if you can cook, or if you can sing.
True.
Yeah.
And if
True.
you can do those three, one of those three, then they'll support you. And luckily, I couldn't throw a football, and I damn sure can't cook, but I could sing, and I had
yeah.
a lot of support. Going through all of those different places that I played. Getting older.
Yeah.
When did you first start to sing, Taylor? When did you growing up in church or anything? I know that I heard this story years ago on American Idol, but I've forgotten it. I've slept since then. We're older now.
No, I found, I had a little guitar when I was a kid. My two great aunts were the first bluegrass female duet on NPR radio out of Oak Ridge, Tennessee. So
Oh, wow.
out there up there in Oak Ridge and stuff, there's a lineage of some music, but it kind of skipped a couple of generations and then I landed on it, and then I just started singing on key, and then that's kind of like, when your dad and your mom and your family's around and you can hit notes and you're on key, that's kind of how I kind of started. I learned through ear. I didn't really have any
Okay.
music. That kind of just it happened. I used to start playing Supertramp, and then I went through the whole. Then it was off to the races. I was, I went through a lot of music, especially Ray Charles. Ray Charles is the root of my musical tree, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. I believe that.
JR mentioned earlier about '04 and '05, and I was like, that's exactly when I started hearing Taylor, because I used to live in Blue Mountain Beach, and I used to have a little purple golf cart that I'd slide down the road to Snapperheads. I don't know if you remember playing at Snapperheads back in those days. But
Oh, hell yeah, dude. I'd like to play at Snapperheads right now.
Oh, dude, it was so fun. You in there. Now, I was always at the back somewhere, either shooting pool, drinking, but diving back in. We had several of us there, but I remember that fateful night when I got all ready. It was a Thursday night, I think, and we're heading to Snapperheads. I know Taylor's going to be there, and I get there, and the parking lot looks a little empty, and I was like, what is going on? And they're like, oh, he's not playing tonight. He apparently made it through some show, American Idol, and he's going on to Hollywood. And so I was very bummed for that night, but very excited for you. So,
well,
cool
it's
stuff.
funny. It's like, I thought that you were going to say, yeah, he almost burnt down Cafe 331 with his cigarette because the grass lit on fire. The grass lit on fire on 331. So I'm glad you didn't say that. I'm glad that you said that I went to. But what's interesting though is a lot of folks down there in that part of the world and down there in Louisiana. I was in Katrina. I was one of the last cab rides out of Hurricane Katrina, and I was just trying to get to higher ground.
Yeah.
And that's that's kind of how I got to American Idol, is that I just I fled the storm, and then Southwest gave me a free ticket. I was down there for a wedding in New Orleans, and the people that were getting married, they were from New Orleans proper, and one of them's from Baton Rouge, and that come hell or high water, they were gonna have that damn wedding.
Oh yeah.
And so everybody, they kept it going, and we got there at 3:00. And that's what I love about Louisiana folks. We got there, we got back to our hotel rooms, and half of us had to be evacuated to hotels, but I ended up catching a cab. But I ended up on a whim. Southwest gave me a free ticket, and I went right to the airport and flew to Las Vegas on a whim. And I got to the airport in Vegas, and my brother called and said, American Idol tryouts are in 45 minutes. So I went from the airport, and I went with the backpack, and I stood in line, and everybody was asking me where my kids were that were auditioning.
Oh, man.
This big old gray shaggy hair, but I guess you could Google the rest of it. But that's
no doubt.
That's how
amazing.
I love my Louisiana.
I never knew that
Louisiana
part.
folks.
That's great. I never knew that story. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
They don't sweat a hurricane till it's in their backyard. I mean, they're gonna have whatever it is.
It's a reason to party, man.
They're gonna party. They're gonna party until it happens.
Absolutely. All day and all night, and even during.
Absolutely.
It just depends on how bad it is. That's freaking awesome, man. I knew that, I knew you auditioned in Las Vegas, but I didn't know how you got there. So, you literally just got off the plane and got in line. How long did you have to wait before you got
about 2.5 hours? But I literally... the storm passed, and I rented a car, and I rented it and they gave me that ticket, and I said, to hell with it, I'm gonna go to Vegas on a whim. So I got to Vegas. Nice. My brother calls me and says, Idol tryouts for 2.5 minutes, we got in line at 3 a.m. So it was like I got there at 11:30, and I just went to the hotel, and then I got in line, and then they checked my ID about 4 or 5 times. I'm still the oldest Idol winner, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think they're not. I think what happened is like they were like, we're not going. We're gonna go low from now on.
Hey man, you're still my favorite American Idol winner for the record, and you always will be.
Mine too.
Hey, that Snapperheads crew, we had that dang software. A buddy of ours named Martin. He told us about this software we had on our computer called that Dial Idol, I think, and we're just after every time we're just wearing it out, and then we're betting who would get in the most votes that night. But it was a legal thing. It was legal. It was just like a fast redial, So
that was some wild times, man. It's not like that anymore with anything. If you think about it, that's on television, even Idol now. It's like, but back then it was still. We were coming into the dawn of the internet age. It was there and all of that, but it wasn't where it is now. Yeah, and everything.
And everything. Like Taylor was saying, he came through touring the same way I did.
Right.
And I meet these kids and guys and gals on the road now that went to school and went straight from a school to a bus on a tour and stuff, and it just blows my mind. But it's just a different world. And even artists now can be discovered on TikTok and go from not having a band to headlining Red Rocks in 6 months. Which did not happen before, So it's just, and this what we're doing now, though, being able to do this, look at each other on a thing. This we didn't even know this was ever be an option.
No.
So it's wild times, but it's like we were the last of the old school, you know what I mean? But I think that happens with every generation, but the gaps keep getting bigger because of this technology deal, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I had like 50 million MySpace followers.
Right.
Yeah.
That was when all that kicked off. 06, that was about the start of all the iPhones and all the stuff that it seems like it was here forever, but it hadn't really been that long.
And Facebook and Instagram and all that was, that was just becoming a part of the fabric of all of our lives.
Yeah.
And it's funny is like if I had all of that around, man, I'd be selling everything online. I mean, I wouldn't be. I don't think I'd probably. I'd look like John Daly. I'd have everything. I'd be outfitted in 84 lumber like
no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, if you could have transferred that MySpace over to Facebook, you know what I mean? Like somehow, let somebody talk here. Let's get those guys over here.
Hey, don't think I hadn't tried that, but I just remember somebody telling me that we actually did try that. We at that point in time when we were all learning, how artists can deal with social media. I think we tried to make that happen, but there was no crossover. There was no. It's the wild frontier at that point.
Yeah, there weren't social media managers. There weren't experts on the subject. You knew somebody who might knew. We were all figuring it out. I mean, even artists on main levels were getting. I mean, they nobody knew. It was a brand new thing. How are we going to figure this out for everybody? And now there's everybody's publicist has a team for it. Everybody themselves has a team. Everybody has a team for that kind of stuff because it's as important as radio or television or anything else now in social media.
Yeah, I get, my agents and stuff like that, I mean, they want to know those social media numbers. And, it's kind of, I'm kind of old school, it's like, when I won Idol, I mean, there were some times where, my privacy was compromised and man, until that happens to you, you don't really know how that feels, and,
Yep.
It kind of messed me up a little bit, coming out of the gate and that in the public eye like I did because it was so big from 6 months. So me, sitting on the commode at 6:45 in the morning talking to somebody on Facebook, that's just not really. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about what I'm doing as far as entertaining you from a theatrical perspective and a musical perspective.
Absolutely.
I'm just happy to know that you control your own social media. Obviously, you and I've been talking to make this happen, and it's actually talking to you. So if you talk to Taylor Hicks on Twitter or X, I'm sorry, or anywhere else, you're actually talking to Taylor Hicks.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome.
I keep up with it, and then sometimes there's some crazies out there that that I'm actually entertained by to a certain degree. I don't want to sound too bad, but I mean I'm perusing it, and making sure that I'm posting as much as I can, but with the right information,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And you've dealt with the adversity on it, and you've done it long. We've been doing it long enough now. We kind of had to go through the growing pains, but now not to look at the crap. Not to interact with the weirdos. You've gotten yourself to a headspace where you can deal with it to where it helps you with work, but you ain't got a little entertainment, but it ain't going to stress you out. Yeah, I know artists that won't even. I mean, like the artist I work for, he doesn't have any of the apps because he. A couple years ago, he's arguing with some 14-year-old kid about Arkansas, Kentucky basketball, and we're like, let's just not have it anymore. And he's like, I don't even want to look at it.
I didn't realize people had so many foot fetishes, man. That's nasty as hell.
Oh, there's everything. Anything you can think of. I think the TikTok's the worst. I mean, but I kind of do it like we used to do Facebook. I use Instagram and stuff like we used to do MySpace. I mean, it was for work. It's for the band. It's to tell people where our concerts are. It's to let you know any updates on stuff, things, and then I use Facebook for like family, friends, kids, dogs, family photo sharing type thing.
Absolutely.
But when I do stray away and look through comments on stuff, whether it be in somebody I'm a couple degrees separation from, I'm like, it just pisses you off because people say the craziest, meanest things you could think of to a kid, to somebody, a helper, a veteran. It's just awful, man. So everybody, there needs to be classes taught in that in school on how to deal and not deal with that certain stuff. But talking about other stuff, old school, like we said, I caught up with you and didn't realize before we started talking, but Tigs was a huge fan, so he met us there with his wife and kids and came to your show at the Bama. And you've played all over the world, the country for sure. I mean, you've done the coolest venues there are, some really cool stuff over the years. But is it still something cool about coming back down 65, coming to Alabama to do shows?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I still get booked a lot in Alabama, and I still get booked. I try to go down and do the coast once a year and play that room at the Bama Dome. That's I mean, I hadn't really changed that much. When you've done it as long as I have, you just went from signing one CD to a bunch of them. I mean, that's about the extent of how it happened with me. So yeah, I love going down there. I got family down there, and I love seeing people, and I love the Floribama. That's where I got my start.
Yeah, I had to tell two guys outside the Bama walking in that day. They're like, I wonder why he's here. I'm like, dude, this is his home turf, man. He's from Birmingham, dude. They're like, no way. I was like, yeah, he's from Birmingham. So anyway, there were some kids, I had to remind them, like, it's not just a random occurrence here. You got a celebrity playing the Bama on a regular day, but it's because he's from here, blah, blah, blah. But,
y'all keep reminding them.
Oh yeah. Well, and I was thinking about this too for you. You're Nashville based full time now, right?
Yeah, I live in Nashville. I bounced from Birmingham to Nashville a good bit.
That's what I was going to say, because you are, and it's another thing we talk about on here a lot, is you are part owners of one of the best barbecue joints in the country. Isn't that right?
Well, Saul's Barbecue is, Saul was a buddy of mine, and unfortunately he passed, but he was a hell of a cook and a hell of a partier. I mean, that's why it made his cooking so good. He was with it. So, he and I got together. I had a little location that I used to play at for a long time in Crestline over in Birmingham. And I told myself if I ever made it, I would carry my first buddy's. I'd carry his name into it and always be around it. So that was Drink and Dine. It was the Open Door, and then Mike and I, were buddies, and he had Saul's. He was just starting the brand, Saul's, and we hopped in it together and started, hawking pork, and I just wave the flag now. Look, we're just blessed that I'll get back there in the kitchen and mess with everybody and have some fun, but luckily the sauce is in place. All the menu items, Mike put into place, and some of them are just brilliant. I mean, the pork and greens dish.
Oh my God, man, that pork and greens is ridiculous. Else. Yeah, it is crazy.
But, we got good fried catfish too, so it's not just a straight barbecue joint. It's a little, we've got fried catfish, and we have specials, and there's 6 locations now, and they just do a great job. People from Alabama love it, and they come all over.
Right.
We let Mike Wilson know he could. Sorry ass Wilson know he could cook.
I'm surprised to hear
food
that
for the Soul Patrol.
For the Soul Patrol, that's right.
That's right.
I'm surprised, Taylor, that you say you don't cook much, or you're not, but you've had a food show and you have a restaurant and all that. So I ain't buying that. Number one, I got a feeling you can cook.
Oh, I can get after it. I just like to. I like to have time to get after it.
Right.
But
yeah,
I mean,
like Cheeks at like 4 a.m. at Cheeks' house, and you're really hungry, so you just go through the fridge and you make some magic or whatever's in there.
I mean, I think that's pretty easy to do. But if I got a couple of days and I'm at the beach with some family and we got a big island and a big grill and stuff, then I'll go to town. I mean, but I'm not having a family, not being married and stuff. It's cooking, cooking for one person at home and stuff. That it just kind of that's kind of tough. Sometimes you wish you had a family because it's economical to do that.
Right.
But yeah, when I got my kitchen, I got a couple of days. Oh, trust me, I get after
You get after
I
it.
bet,
Well,
I
look,
bet you do.
I've got. I told a couple of ladies that you were coming on the show. They were very excited to know this. So if you need their numbers, I'll be happy to get.
He can
They'll be
hand it
more
off.
than happy to talk to you, Taylor.
Well,
He can hand it
I mean,
off.
we let the cat out of the bag that I look at all my social media stuff.
Yeah, we really
Yeah.
have. Yeah,
They know
maybe I need to
they know-
edit some of that out.
That's true.
NBC, whoever, he's available too. He's got some
He
spots
is.
between tour dates if you need to film a show. Who Wants to Marry Taylor Hicks? You never
Right.
know.
There it is.
Hey, it's-
There it
He
is.
can
Sounds
cook.
like an
He's a
idea.
musician. He's famous. I mean, what else? He's from Bama. He's a good old boy.
Can
He says,
sing a
yes, sir,
phone
yes,
book
ma'am.
to you. Shit. What,
Hey,
what
Regis-
else do you want?
Regis and Kelly, we did the dating game back in like '09 or something, and right before Regis, passed actually, and they called me and asked me to do the dating game, and that was weird.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest going on a dating game.
That sounds scary as hell, man. That
It
sounds
really
real
does
scary.
because you can't
Well,
control
the
anything.
producers were all like waving and like going number 3, pick number 3, and they were telling me which one to pick because I didn't know which one of them. I didn't know what them looked like.
Right.
So,
That's
I don't know
crazy.
if I trust that old dating game stuff.
I think if they did one like the one my wife used to watch, the Brett Michaels one, that's the kind you need. You need about 25 gals just to come stay with you for a couple of months, and let's see how it all works out.
Yeah, what a gig he had, right?
Yeah, no doubt, right? And then when he got tired of that charade, he got to go on the road, do Sturgis or something, and get paid, go, get a break from all that hoo-ha. Oh, my God. Well, hey, talking about music, you got new music out this year. You've had 2 new singles come out this year off a new record. Everybody's excited about. I know we got to hear some of it at the show, which was fantastic show. I mean, if anybody's in earshot of Taylor playing somewhere, wants to make a trip, definitely. I mean, quality just as good as good a show
as
I
good
could
as
have
you'll
imagined.
ever hear in your entire life.
That's what I'm saying. It was and I've heard some of the greats, man, but that was as good as Sharon Jones at the Nick or something. I mean, that you know what I mean. That's just good stuff.
Yeah, it really
brother.
was.
But the new stuff, I mean, what's I know the new album. It's not out yet. You've released songs from it, but the new album. When's the new album supposed to drop? You have a release on it yet?
It's coming out in spring. This kind of
copy that.
In this day and age, you want to kind of just slowly release singles and keep the interest up as opposed to just letting it all hang out, which I'm fine with, is because the work is already there. I've been working on a little Christmas music for a Christmas release. So I've been in the studio, so those kinds of things to be able to bridge the gap to the next album is important. But yeah, I got a record coming out in the spring. I'm pretty excited about.
Can't wait to hear that, dude. You're going to be doing something in Birmingham too at Christmas, aren't you? A concert, kind of a Christmas type of thing.
I do it every year. Do it for Toys for Tots.
Yeah.
I do a Bob Seger. I do a pretty good Bob Seger show.
Oh God.
I
need to come to this.
I do a lot of Bob Seger stuff, but I got a call from the University of Alabama about a week and a half ago and asked me if I would take my full band and perform at the Walk of Champions before the Texas game. So I've loaded up all the band members I could find, and Saturday after the Walk of Champions, they're doing a big right there at Legends Corner. That we've got a big stage set up in it, and it's free.
Nice.
So I'm pretty stoked to be able to go into that atmosphere. That's my next gig, but I got some really good public shows sprinkled in the fall, and obviously I'm looking forward to watching some football, not only college, but I got my fantasy team going.
Yep.
Half of them. What's funny over the years is half of my team gets arrested. I don't know if it's my choice, but
Well,
I have some folks go down the wrong road, but they're damn good. So I'm hoping that my fantasy team will be good.
Well, I hope you didn't have Kelsey. I hope you didn't draft him on your team this year because people are starting to freak out. He's not going to be hurt by the time this airs. He may be back fully. No issues.
Hey, I
drafted.
I picked up Alvin Kamara. I know he's going to be out for a few games, but when he does get back, I did that with Dak Prescott a few years ago. I was like, he's coming back in week 6, and I'll need somebody later.
Another sneaky pick that I have was Jameson Williams in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's out, and I don't know if that was as sweet as pickup as Kamara, but I think Detroit is going to score some points. I just have a feeling that their defense suspect always, but I think they're going to put up some fantasy points. It's a dome.
I got Jameis on mine. I pick all the Bama players I can always, so that helps. And we've had a few, which Ruggs didn't work out, obviously. And I'll tell you one that was a weird random one a few years ago. I've told this on here before. I got Andrew Luck about 3 days before he retired.
so sucks.
I'm thinking that guy's in his 20s. He's good. He's not going to be. Yeah, he's not going to get arrested with smoking weed in his car with a gun or anything, or with a stripper before the season starts. But no, hell, he's just going to retire at 26. But I get it. Whatever.
Who's your pro team, Taylor? Who do you pull for?
It's funny, Birmingham. I mean, look, I tell people, you just don't. I don't really we've never really grown up with one. I think that we're adopted Braves fans. That's our close, which is great because I've enjoyed being a Braves fan. Absolutely. But we've never really had obviously living in Nashville. I love the Titans. Being in Nashville, it's nice to growing up in a town where you didn't have pro sports. Living in Nashville has been fun to follow the Titans, but to be honest with you, I was, as we move into this age of who can score the most points, I move into the age of who's going to put up a defense that's going to make somebody score the least. Right. And that team for me has been the 49ers for the last 5 or 6 years. I love that defense. I thought DeMeco Ryans was a great defensive coach, and look, touchdowns are great, but for me, I'm old school as hell, man. I want to see I want to see somebody light somebody up, and that's just me. Yep. I guess that's just the old school in me. So I've been a 49ers. I love defenses. I love especially pro defenses.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, they've had a hell of a run the last few years. We'll see, how they do this year. I agree 100%. I think next year, boys, we haven't talked about this. I'm going to put Taylor on the spot. I think we need to have us a Tigs Bits Fantasy Football League. We got 4 people right here. Just a little side league, and somebody got to beat Taylor. That'll be the whole name of the game. They get a signed autographed CD or whatever from your latest one. I'm just putting you on the spot.
Bring it on.
I just want the signed CD. That's all. It's the truth.
You think you're going to win, huh?
Yes,
I am. I got plenty of those.
I figured you do, man. I figured you do. So I wanted to ask you, you had a Vegas residency for a while, which absolutely incredible. A little over a year. How was that? I've never talked to anybody who had a residency, but how was that every night? Did it drain you? How did you keep yourself fresh over that kind of a period of time?
The first 5 months were like the first 5 months in college. It was.
I can only imagine.
You're in Vegas,
and if just luck would have it that my showroom manager was Mike Tyson's VIP host in Mike Tyson's heyday. So it was like he had the plug, and we just plugged it in whenever you plugged it in. So
man,
we had a blast with it. And look, then all of a sudden, then the family starts coming and wanting to go to Celine, and then you start calming down and shit like that, and then that lasted about 18 months, but I lived on the Strip for about 18 months. My window looked over the strip, and I'd go down in my boxers and my t-shirt into the 24-hour deli. That was my refrigerator. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
God.
Which was kind of crazy. It was a great gig, and the Caesars people were so nice to me. I just at some point, I just kind of was, I just kind of, it was almost like the Forrest Gump thing, man. I just, all of a sudden one afternoon, I just was like, I'm going to stop running.
Right.
I'm going to quit, I
That's
had
right.
to,
Yeah.
it was a great gig though. Great gig.
Yeah, I could only imagine. And you being used to traveling and moving around to different shows, as cool as it was with all the high-level production and, I mean, just A-list, A-team all the way around, at some point you had to be like, man, I got to go. I got to move around. I can't be here every day anymore. Yeah, I
got to
get it.
go back to the South, man.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
talking to Brian and Jason, some of your band members during that time, and the same thing. They were like, yeah, it was fun. It's been a damn party. And they're like, yeah, I'm just trying to find something new to eat and waste my time. I don't know what to do,
Listen, after that 5 months, here's what was the deal. We had a pot that we would throw $100 in. It was $600. The pot got up to about $600 on who could not go outside the longest.
God.
If you leave, you have to stay inside the doors, or you have
So
to leave.
our production guy Clay, he didn't go outside for like a month and 4 days.
Good Lord.
Damn.
I mean that's
good for you.
He was
What else
working
is there
for
to
that-
do? You've
he
already
was
done all
working
the.
for that- He was working for
Wow.
that $600, man.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, man.
But that's kind of like what the gig. That's kind of how the gig went. After it was just day in and day out. But look, I ain't complaining.
No.
I was
No,
to be a
I
part
get
of the landscape of that place was fun as hell, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
No, and getting to go do all the things, like you said, coming from a small town in Alabama, going to Madison Square Garden, going and playing at all the coolest places in the country that you never even really saw on TV. You might even just heard about, and getting to go actually do those and play your music that you wrote, that you perform in front of all these people. I mean, you can only be proud. Yeah, an absolute blessing, an amazing feat nonetheless, and inspiring too. I mean, you think about everybody who watched your journey, like to get to that point that was inspired the same way. They're like, I'm from nowhere, Mississippi, man. I might give this a shot. And then that show still happens. Dreams still come true. And I mean, you're part, like you said, you're part of the fabric of the music,
That's what I love about, people ask me about those shows and stuff, about Idol and, America's Got Talent and The Voice and all of those things. America's gets to decide. It's not some, slick in some suit in L.A. being an A&R guy, liking what he likes and shoving it down our throats.
Mm-hmm.
Those shows are truly based on what the population likes, and that's what I love. And that's what I've been, I'm very, blessed to have hopped off a show where, I can look somebody in the eye, and it's happened before, with artists, some country artists and some other artists that I've run into, that have been, kind of cherry picked off of an A&R, an A&R roster. There's a little bit of rub that you can feel between, when you get around them and you pick up on it. But a lot of it is that, America did decide, and they really didn't decide on, X person or whatever. But that's what I love is that, I had to go in and do it live, and the public pick, decide on if I was good enough to be a household name or not,
Right.
So
you didn't go into it, you're Joe the banker who just likes to sing at church and is going to go try to get famous overnight. You're Taylor Hicks, an artist. You'd already been doing it, honing your craft for years, you know what I mean? So it wasn't an overnight success. You'd worked to get to that point, to have the confidence and talent to see it through,
I gave everybody on that production, when I first got there, man, I went to everybody and handed them a CD. I mean, I was hustling.
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
of course.
hustling. Man,
That's how we roll.
I mean, I was there was not one thing that was going to let me, let this opportunity slip, and I breathed it, every day. And I still am to a certain degree, I mean,
Dude,
there's
that's
been
awesome.
peaks and valleys. So I'm fortunate that to hop off a show like Idol.
Yeah, and I
Was
mean that's the school we came from. You take advantage, you
Yeah.
hustle, you work hard, good things
Yeah.
happen. That's all you put your head down and work. That's what school we came from. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. You're in the right
Exactly.
spot. Like this is what you have to do. You know what I mean? Take advantage of this moment. So no, that's huge.
That's right.
Hey Taylor, I do want to switch gears and ask you something. That kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier. So I moved to Birmingham in 2012. I was there for like 2.5 years. Two things that I gained from that place that I'll never forget. One is the first time I went to Saul's Barbecue and I got that pork and greens. And, as I describe it, of like South in a stack. And it was like the best barbecue dish still to this day I've ever had. But the second, one night, family was out of town. I was bored. I lived over there on the other side of Hoover near Bessemer. I'd been hearing about this place called Gipp's Place. And I was like, I got to go. Brother, I went over there that night by myself. Didn't know anybody, and was like, wow, this is not what I was expecting. It's this dude's old house. He walked down a driveway down to a stage behind his house. Unbelievable experience. I got to talk with that dude for like 30 minutes that night. Gip and I, we hit it off. We got to talking about Central Florida and South Florida. But anyway, dude, your experience there, I'm sure it's there. I've never read anything on it, but I'm sure you've got some roots there somewhere.
Gibbs Gibbs was probably the last true juke. Now there might be some juke joints in Alabama. I feel like I've kind of sniffed around all over this place, but Gibbs Place was a true juke joint, and it was he was great. He came up and played the Saul's juke joint a few times, and he was legendary. And what I haven't experienced and what I'd like to experience is Clarksdale, Mississippi. That's where I haven't been over there yet. I got a buddy that's from over there, and he's trying to yank me over there with a harmonica. So I got to do that. But yeah, Gibbs is an amazing. That was an amazing place, and he had an amazing run.
Well, I wanted to jump back into your American Idol experience because Simon Cowell gave you a little bit of hell when you first auditioned. How was he behind the scenes? Was he a nice guy, or is what you see on TV kind of how he is?
As you move into, in the beginning stages of that show, it's about the judges.
Yeah.
When you move into the later stages of the show, it's about your fan base. So as you move into the later stages of the show, then, they kind of take a little bit of a back seat and just kind of ride the wave and provide their input. But he was great, man. He was, I say this, he smoked cool cigarettes, and that, sometimes I would, when I was making that run on that show, I needed to come on a cigarette every now and then. So I'd go down there and I'd go down there and smoke cools with him, but he was, no pun intended, he's a pretty cool dude, he was, he was nice. And, like I said, and towards the later part of the, of the show, the judges kind of just, they're kind of, it's off to the races with your fan
Right.
base.
Yeah. Yeah. It's out of control. It's out of their control too in the second half of that stuff. Yep. Randy and Paula, were they what you see great. Is what you get? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
figured so. Those were the original, and it's and I think back on it, I don't think, in my opinion, these days that these talent shows, they don't have a villain. You got to have a whether it's reality television, whether it's a drama or a docu-series or something, you to be able to have the interest, you have a villain.
Yeah, you got to love to hate somebody.
Absolutely. And I think in this, it's just a big love fest, now in all of these shows, because they're trying to, keep the morale up for the artist after they jump off of the platform to sell records. But I think just from a viewer perspective, there needs to be some villainous or villainesses. You know what I mean?
So, Simon's all sweet and nice now. It's so crazy. He's the exact opposite. He wore you out from day one. And then he did that to a lot of people. But now he's just all Mr. Soft and nice.
Well, that's like a lot of things that gray area. We talk a lot of different things from Southern culture and Southern traditions on the Tigs Bits podcast. One we talk about. And I'll ask real quick, I didn't know wrestling. We grew up loving wrestling, and that was the good thing about wrestling. You had the good guy and the bad guy, and they were clearly defined, just like cartoon characters. He-Man, the bad guys, the good guys. But growing up in Birmingham area, did you ever go to wrestling growing up?
Yeah, I went to. We went down to Louie Louie's. They had wrestling down on the down in Southside. So
Really?
we went to. We'd go down to Louie Louie's and what. That was that was like when I was, when I wasn't supposed to go to Louie Louie's, but they would go down there and set up a ring. Yeah, I loved it.
Was that Bob the Bullet Armstrong was back then? Was he coming through there? The Bullet?
Yeah. There was that's old school.
The Armstrongs, for sure.
Yes,
who was your favorite on TV growing up?
I like Ric Flair. And I like Macho Man.
It was intense.
But those were the classic dudes. But we used to go down there. Yeah, there was some semi-pro wrestling in this big music bar on Friday nights, and they'd be wrestling in the middle of it. Louie Louie's, pretty famous, legendary place in Southside. So
I love it. Yeah, we used to go. I remember Louie Louie's. I remember going there and partying some back in the day. We'd go to Birmingham, play Zydeco and stuff.
They set up a ring. Yeah, I was definitely in on that business.
We used to go down to Prattville to the Armory, the National Guard Armory. They'd set up a ring in there, and we'd go watch it. It had the granny lady with the bag and the purse trying to hit the bad guy and kiss the good guy. The whole thing. It was great.
Yeah.
We want to make sure put everybody on social media. Need to go to TaylorHicks.com. You can catch him on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it these days. Got new music out. Catch a show soon. Be listening out for new Christmas music. It sounds like you might even got an exclusive here on the Tigs Bits podcast.
That's a bit.
Yeah, there you go. So there you go, everybody. Dropping exclusives here. But Taylor, thank you for your time.
Oh, yeah. Play us out, baby.
Soul Patrol, baby.
That train, baby.
Love you guys.
Thank you, brother.
Love you too, man. Thank you so much. Soul Patrol.